Hey, I'm glad you could join me. I want to tell you today about how we might start out with the digital DJ rig, building up some skills with things like the setup, how we might start using some cue points, and just generally getting ready to go as a digital DJ. So come with me down to the rig and we'll see what's happening. So when we get started, what we might do is make sure, even before we turn the gear on, that the master volume is turned all the way off. And that's true of all gear, whether it's real instruments or DJ rig. Always make sure you've got your master volume off. I've got all my leads plugged in at the other end. Should all be sweet. So what I'm going to do is reach over here to the power switch, flick it on. You can see there's an indicator there for where the power goes in. And as a clue more generally, when you see the power lead going into the device, that's where the whole power section is. So that's where the button will be. You can see when we turn the rig on, it has a bit of a think. It gets organized. I've got a USB here, just a standard USB. And I've got a few songs on there. So what I'm going to do is load it into the slot over here. It'll have a second to have a think. While it's thinking, I'm going to press the USB 1 button. And it's loading up. When it loads up, it can see songs and folders there. And I can drive around in those songs and folders using this navigation button. So I'm going to press it in. And then I can see a bunch of folders there. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go to some of Sam's material. I'm going to press the button in to explore the folder. And then I'm going to cruise down through there. I've got Michael Jackson's Rock With You. Why not? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load that into deck A, deck 1. So it loads into over here. You can see it loads in because the jog wheel gets an indicator on it. You'll notice this jog wheel has no cue point on it. And what I'm going to do is, instead of just hitting play, I'm going to hit the cue button, this yellow button, just to check it out. So I'll do it with the fader down and fade up. So when I start the song, it starts with that drum fill. That drum fill's awesome, don't get me wrong, but if I was trying to beat match this into another song, what I'd be more likely to do is play this song up to where the beat starts in earnest, so I'll do that. So that's my cue point. So now I'm going to hit that cue button again. And if I release my hands off the deck, next time I hit the cue point, I've got that cue point, I'm ready to rock. A lot of songs will start right with the beat, right on the one just where you want them. Every song's different, of course. So let's have a look at Prince's Controversy. I'm going to load it into number 2, deck 2, over there. So once again, I'll hit the cue point here. And that begins pretty well with a nice 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can hear that there's slightly different tempos. This is probably a bit faster. So if I was going to try and beat match them, I might make this one a bit faster by sliding this up. Tempo speed up, but I won't do that for now. What we're doing is exploring how to set up cue points. So this one begins nicely on a 1. This one I had to adjust to get a good one. Let's take a look. So I've got a back button at the top here on the left. And I can go back out of that folder. And I might wind myself back up to AZA, because I know what that material's about. Okay, so I've got a song here, Barbra Streisand, Duck Sauce. So I'm going to load it into deck 1. So let's have a look at what happens when we start this cue point. It begins nicely with a 1. Because when I press the button, the cue button, I didn't let it go. If I now hit the play button and take my fingers off, it'll keep going.
Barbra Streisand.
So using the cue buttons is a particularly good strategy, because if you don't like the hit you've gotten, you can always just lift your finger up and start again. So let's load a few other songs and see how they go down. Let's try loading this. So I'll load this over to number 2, hitting the number 2 button. Now you can see that's a classic example. All that bit of sound goes by before the 1, so that's not very usable without a 1. So now I've reset the cue point there. I can also use, I've got hot cue indicated here on the platter for the pads. So if I hit this first button, it's going to remember in real time where I was. So I might try a few more. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's just a really clean beat there. I'll wait for this next section. So now I've got a cue point that I can activate in real time. It will take me to where that bass line starts, as long as I can hit it in time. So a big part of DJ is probably internalizing some sort of beat with your body, tapping your foot or something. If I do a cue point I don't like, I can hit shift and delete it. I can go backwards and forwards through all my different cue points. So you remember in my previous video on turntables on vinyl how tricky it was to find the right points, but in this context it's much easier. So I'll give you an indication of how that goes down. So I'll load another song on this other side. It's much easier to control. So we've got the same as on vinyl. We've got player 1, player 2, the mixing section where we combine them, the screen up here, we use this button and these buttons surrounding it to load the songs in and explore the contents of the folder. This section just here is for the headphones, so it decides how loud the headphones are and whether or not you're listening to the master output or the allocated outputs. EQ section, trim, filtering, high pass or low pass filter, and finally a loop section.
How low can you go?
So I put that into a loop. I think I've got the second point a little bit late, so I'll wind it back a bit. That's pretty smooth. I'll try this. I'll exit the loop. I'd like to get when Chuck says bass.
Bass, how low can you go? Bass, how low can you go? Bass, how low can you go? Death row, what a brother know. Once again, back is the incredible rhyme animal, the uncannibal
So let's have a look at a digital DJ rig. They all work pretty similar. The ones we've got at Jets are Pioneer brand. They work with Rekordbox software, but you don't even need to do that. I don't work with Rekordbox myself. I just prepare material into folders on a USB, or even some songs that aren't even in USB in folders, just kicking around on the USB on the top layer. But all of those cue points and even the first cue will be remembered on the USB, so it's pretty handy when you come back to it. Thanks for joining me today for this look at digital DJ skills, how we might start to set up the gear, set up cue points, muck around, have some fun. It's a good time now to start to think about putting together a library on a USB and get ready to come to Jets. And we'll see what we can do with the gear then. Until then, peace out.
ManualYouth.com DanielYouth.com.